Hi there, welcome to my channel, Taslima Maya Art. This is Taslima, and this week I'll be showing you how I created this octopus from a failed chameleon pour and transformed it into something new using just Perlen pens and a bit of sponged on acrylic paint. I started off this pour with all best intentions, mixing up a number of colours, as you can see, with my pouring media, which is in the description box for this video, and I had hoped for a brightly coloured chameleon pour. However, this was my first attempt and it didn't actually work out the way I had intended. I did a quick drip test as well, as you can see, to make sure all my colours had the same thin consistency, and I used the 30 by 20 canvas, as you can see, and here I show you the consistency, which is like a 1 second trace, I would say. It falls straight back into the cup and disappears quite quickly, so it doesn't really leave any sort of mound. For this chameleon pour, I'm going to use a transparent cup such as this one, and actually layer each of my paints into this cup and do a flip cup onto the canvas, and then use silicone oil to do the rest. So I will show you how I do that. At present, what I'm doing is I'm starting to layer the colours and running them down the side of the cup, so that they don't mix as much, and I will do that for each of the colours. And now I'm simply going to put the canvas on top of the cup and flip the whole thing over like so, and then just make sure my canvas is definitely level there, and it is, I find. And I'm just going to remove the cup now. Wait for it. There we go. And already I can see some bubbles on the surface of the paint, so I'm going to use a torch to get rid of those. I decide to start tilting out the paint to the corners, just to get as much coverage as possible before I tilt it off, because there is quite a lot of paint on this canvas. Here I've got my silicone mat to catch the paint. So as you can see, some of those colours have begun to mix as I tilt it, which at the minute looks okay, but it actually turns a bit muddy after a few minutes, and it doesn't look as good as this because it loses some of the greens there and some of the other colours that I had in my cup, and it starts to go a little bit brown, I'm afraid. One lesson I do learn from this first attempt at a chameleon pour using flip cup technique is that it's so important that you know how to layer those colours correctly, so it doesn't turn into some muddy colour that you didn't want it to. I think at this point, now that I've tilted it out, it doesn't look too bad still, but as it dries, by the next day it goes very dark, and it's not something that I'm very excited about. I'm just going over it with a blowtorch there to make sure that the bubbles pop and I don't get left with lots of measles on top of the dark colour. So yeah, so I am a little bit disappointed when I see it dry, and you'll see that in a minute. But before we get to that stage, I decide to do the other part of the chameleon pour technique and use this Montmartre silicone oil that I've never really used before. It's a different one to the one I usually use, so I'm just going to pop that into a little container and use a skewer then to dab on each of my cells, okay, to create each of my cells for the chameleon pour. So here I am continuing with the technique, and I'm dabbing my skewer into the oil, and then doing lots of little dots into the paint there with my skewer to create the cells that I was after. At this point, I'm still quite optimistic, hoping that it will still work out quite nice. I did, if you noticed at the beginning, I had all these beautiful bright colours in my cups, but now this is sort of a muted canvas. It's got some pinks and oranges and slight greens and almost a purpley colour to it, but it is quite muted. Now you can see each of my cells that I'm creating are starting to grow as well. I think with this being my first attempt, I wasn't too sure how far apart I should really be dotting the silicone, or how big these cells would actually grow. And I think, you know, in terms of how big your cells grow when you use silicone in this method, really does depend on the thickness of your paints as well. So if you have very thick paints on your canvas, you tend to get smaller cells emerging simply because of the resistance with the thickness of the paint. If you have thinner paint, the cells grow quicker and larger quite often. So just something to keep in mind. You can also see that the cells themselves are quite disappointing in that they don't reveal any layers of colours. So it's quite kind of pinky inside the cells. There's no layers of different colours. It doesn't really look like a chameleon in any way. So for that reason, I was quite disappointed with the outcome of this one. And I felt that I really did need to embellish it and turn it into something different. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit so that you're not too bored watching me dot each of the little drops of silicone in. So yeah, so sit back and relax, and I'll play a bit of relaxing music for you just till we get to the end of this stage. And before I go, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel and you would like to support these videos and allow for the creation of more, please do click the subscribe button and the like button and share with your friends or fellow artists. And also you can hit the notification bell if you would like to be alerted to future videos that I create. I do appreciate every single one of you who supports me and helps the channel to grow. And your wonderful comments really do make my day when I read them. I try to respond to every single comment. And if you'd like me to try a particular technique for you, do let me know and I'll put it on my list of things that I would love to do at some point over the next few weeks. And this is when I finished the dotting process, and you can see the cells only grew to a certain size and they're quite fairly spaced apart, but I wasn't too pleased with this look, as you can imagine. It's at this point I decided to completely change what it was and do an octopus and use Perlen pen on a sheet of glass to work out where I would place this. I used the pen to draw out an outline, then released it from the glass using isopropyl alcohol and a craft knife, and then I glued it onto the canvas. And I've shown you how I do this in other videos, such as the mermaid videos and a couple of others that I'll pop onto the screen. I then finished the outline directly onto the canvas using my Perlen pen, as you can see, and it was a pretty straightforward process. So I'm finishing each of the tentacles there. I'm cutting off a part that I actually didn't like in the end, and I just wiped the glue off the canvas there. So I used a basic craft glue to glue this outline on, and it was a pretty straightforward process. And here I am finishing the last few tentacles directly onto the canvas, which obviously requires no glue. So that's how I pretty much did the outline. This is a purple one, but you can get these pens in any colour, almost any colour, and a lot of pearlescent colours as well, which are very, very pretty. And they're very useful as alternatives to the glue gun technique. If you haven't really practiced with the glue gun, these are other items that you can use. Now, there was some logic as to why I chose an octopus for this pour. As you can see, there are a lot of tentacle looking circles on the surface of the canvas, which are the cells that were created with silicone, and I thought that what I could do is just make it look like the tentacles of an octopus. So I am simply adding a few little bits of embellishments and dots on the Perlen pen outline of the tentacles, just to give it that kind of 3D effect. And I'm going to hopefully block out the background to this octopus, so the foreground, or the actual octopus, is the pour itself, and the background something completely different. Now here is the outline completely finished, and now I'm going to just fill in the background with a couple of different colours, Amsterdam and Pebeo and Arteza colours, and there's some metallics there as well, and I'll show you those in the description box below. So all the colours and paints and products I use are all in my description box, so do please check that out as well. I'm applying the paint using a very soft sponge which I've cut up. Any kind of kitchen sponge will do, if you haven't got the proper art sponges. This is just a regular kitchen sponge I've cut up, and I'm just dabbing the paints onto it, taking off the excess, and then just dabbing it straight onto the canvas. I'm using a three-tone colour palette here, so I showed you the paints there, and I'm using a simple kind of mini brush to try and add the darker colours around the octopus. And then if I get any on my outline, my pearl pen outline, I simply just wipe it off with a wet wipe or a wet kitchen towel. And that's quite easy to do. It comes off really, really quickly. So while it's wet, it's best to just give that a wipe down as well. It's pretty easy to do. And as I said, this is quite an easy technique to save a failed pour, or a pour that you don't like very much. It's simply to find something that you would like to make out of it, and using these Perlen pens to do it. It just simplifies the whole thing. You don't have to use a glue gun or any other kind of difficult technique. You simply draw the outline with the pearl pen itself, and it gives you that 3D effect, which is lovely, visually and in a tactile sort of way, so you can touch the canvas and feel the outline as well. So yeah, it's a lovely way of saving a technique or a pour that hasn't worked out very well. I'm just going to give you a little close-up. It's a bit dark where I am in this video, and I'm not sure you can see it very well, so I'll give you a better close-up once it's completely finished as well. And I'm just polishing it off now and just blending a little bit between the lighter and the darker colours there. And they are metallic colours or shimmery iridescent colours, so they look really lovely when the light hits it. So I'll show you again in the daytime. And you don't have to do an octopus, you can do almost anything that your heart desires. You just need to find a royalty-free, a copyright-free outline or image on the internet and simply copy that onto your pour and create something special that you really like. The final stage of me finishing off this painting was simply to add some highlights and some shadows. So highlights I added within the outline of the octopus, in the pour itself, and some of the shadows and low lights I added underneath the octopus, or around the octopus, around the edges, on the kind of background, to give it some depth. I'm actually using a white marker pen and just blending it in with my hand and also with the finger blender that I have here, and just making sure it's rubbed in. I also use a cotton buddy there as well, and my daughter here, my 2-year-old, is pretending to copy me, as you can see. So here's the finished product. I really hope you like this one. I thought it was a great save. Yeah, so you can see the tentacles, see some of those silicone circles, cells on the tentacles, and I think it looks lovely. I hope you agree. If you liked it, please give this video a like, or leave a comment, or leave any feedback that you have. I'd love to hear from you, and I will hopefully see you on my next video. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.